Alright, so I played a game recently called Weird West. It's a really good one, with flaws like always, but what we've got here is a game which I've been looking for since, well, Mankind Divided probably. I remember when it was announced, I remember when it was nice and fresh, or when Human Revolution was a brand new game. How many years has it been? Anyway, Weird West does this same kind of thing pretty well, and I'd recommend it for sure. What is it about? Well, it's pretty obvious, truth be told, the title says it all. Only one thing I would mention is that there are 5 characters, all with their own stories which might have nothing to do with the others, but eventually there's a reason to tie it all up. What did I enjoy? So the description alone already spells out that Dishonored is a strong inspiration, and there is actually an obvious reference at one point during the first chapter. Pretty amusing, honestly. Anyway, I don't even know what does it mean at this point, but immersive seems is the way to describe this. Game genres are such a confusing thing, since what does it even mean? A simulation of an immersive world? You can apply it to anything, whatever. There is an environment to interact with, multiple solutions, sneaking, various skills and abilities, choices to make, yada yada yada. I cannot get enough of this. Deus Ex was great, Dishonored was good, Gloomwood seems to be the next great one, although it's extremely slow to release and might never get out of early access. And now there is Weird West, offering a fresh new perspective, figuratively and literally, just can't go wrong with that. The world itself is interesting, although I guess that comes with the territory, because it's pretty much a melding of all the genres, save for sci-fi. You've got the Wild West angle, the cowboys and gunslinging, the magical mumbo-jumbo with the witches who teleport around the place and throw lightning, the horror aspect with the man-eating creatures, ghosts and zombies and werewolves on the prowl. It's a cornucopia of tropes, genres and ideas, kinda like how Shadowrun is a combination of everything. And I love that one too. I suppose exploration can get a special shout out, although, again, it's pretty much an immersive sim staple. It comes with the territory, but one special note about that is it's not all about exploring the ruins, bandit towns, or whatnot. Sometimes it's about breaking into people's homes or a bank. One of the earliest things I have actually done is climb to the roof of a bank in broad daylight, time it between the patrols, and I stole an upgrade item before climbing my way out with a rope I fastened earlier. Surprisingly enough, a lot of these games don't have a peaceful hub to explore. Dishonored, for example, had missions, and sometimes you'd get to talk to some friendly NPCs, but generally it's all hostile territory. And the hubs are very lackluster with maybe 1 or 2 NPCs. You don't actually get to see anything or break into any place. Here it's an actual Wild West, with towns, farms, plantations, mines and whatever else. And I enjoyed that a lot more. It makes the game feel like a living world instead of a playground existing purely for the sake of entertaining the player. Sadly, the depth of it is lacking though, but it's a step in the right direction, and I wish more games did this. These are the major points, but I've also enjoyed some other things, like the gruff cowboy commenting on the player's journey, the character of Heathen, the changes which occur to the world due to players' actions, including the things which happen to the former player characters. There's a lot to praise. Oh, and a bit of an unimportant point, I've enjoyed the news clippings. They offer some insights into the events going on and often comment on the stuff the player has been involved in. Rarely favorably. Right, so what did I dislike? There are 2 main problems I have with this game, and they are the lack of polish and the combat. So first of all, bugs. There are a bunch of bugs. First one off the top of my head, the bounty target just didn't spawn. In fact, nothing spawned. I explored the whole area, leave and come back, and the same thing. I had to let that bounty expire. Then another bug, I've gotten to a brothel and I know there's supposed to be a quest. It doesn't get offered. And after coming back with another character, everyone turns hostile if I try to accept that quest, despite the fact that the tracker appears and the NPC actively asks for my help, as long as I'm out of vision. Which is actually another thing. Story NPCs see the player and talk to them despite the fact that we physically have things which block the line of sight, or they are on the other side of the map. Or I've also used invisibility and NPCs still approached me. There's a whole slew of bugs like that. can probably list a bunch, but this isn't a bug report, so who cares? Point is, what this needed further testing, and at least none of the bugs flat out broke the game or made it borderline impossible to play. Like Shadow Gambit Cursed Crew, for example. It's annoying, but not horrific. Combat is the second issue. So the isometric perspective, or I guess extremely zoomed out third person, that is fun for exploration. Being able to see far, getting to spot patrols behind the wall, it's all great. Problems arises when the player actually needs to do something in close quarters. Melee, for example, is truly terrible in this game. Reminds me of Morrowind, everybody. Morrowind. It reminds me of Morrowind, with how it's randomly missing half the time. Throwing weapons are downright broken. I'm not sure what is exactly supposed to happen with them, and I've finished the entire game. The aiming is just so horribly unpredictable. Basically, every time I did use them, I spent at least 10 or 20 seconds, at least, I'm not exaggerating here, trying to aim. Most of the time I needed to blow up some wall or a secret, I would just throw it right at my feet and run away, because it's impossible to do it otherwise, or again, it'll take at least 20 seconds. Also, there are random doodads and whatnot in the way as well. Some fights are also idiotic because AI in this game is awful. At least the friendly AI. And I'm just gonna give a spoiler here for the first chapter. The bounty hunter finds her husband and has a choice to hunt down the man behind it all. And I've retried the whole sequence maybe 20 times, maybe more, because there is no way to tell the husband to just sit in some corner. That moron will run right at the giant explosive shooting shotgun and die in the first 2 seconds of a fight, over and over and over again. Similar thing happened with a fourth character. There's a guy held at gunpoint in the basement, and I could rescue him, if only he didn't stand on top of a haystack and move in thinking he's a Terminator. And you might be wondering, why does the haystack matter? Because there's a very easy to set fire to lantern there, and eventually the fire spreads to the haystack. And this freaking idiot will just stand there while he's on fire until he dies, and you can't heal him in any way. For whatever reason, enemies would refuse to shoot at me and gun down that idiot too. So I had to actively stand in the way and block the bullets to get through without losing him. And I had to deliberately aim away from everything and just be very precise with my shots while just chugging down the health bandages. I understand what these are all supposed to be extra, but saving these NPCs are a little challenge to get more story, but having AI be deliberately stupid is not a good challenge. I honestly laughed when I saw that one of the perks to unlock is a way to buff the teammates, because every time I did have teammates I actively felt hindered. They would get in the way, stand in my explosive, refuse to ever use cover. It's not as if enemies are super intelligent, but they at least try to stay alive. Allies don't do that, even worse than teammates in Warframe. Or Spectres, these are pretty stupid as well. Another thing about the game is that the levels at first seem very interesting, deep and distinct, but as the time goes on it feels as if they constructed one level then repeated it a few times. There are definitely still unique zones, but a lot of them are not. Some mines are downright carbon copies of each other, towns too. Once you start going through bounties it becomes much easier to notice, and I feel like they could have randomized the placement of some buildings or changed the layout or something. Hell, even something as simple as mirroring the doodads could have helped. Instead, it's totally the same, exactly the same kind of town over and over again. Only difference being a different name. In addition, the story definitely takes a nosedive after the first two characters. They are well made, with a well-paced story and cool side quests. Although I guess the first character might drag out a little bit. Meanwhile, the third and fourth characters felt unfinished. It's like they were supposed to have twice as many quests, more story, more everything, and instead it just suddenly ends. They did have their moments, as I especially liked the Haunted Mansion, but there's just not enough. But it's even worse with the last character. You pretty much do the dream, wake up, go to the special room, then visit two areas, talk to every player character, and that's it, that's the end. I just described everything that happens in the 5th chapter. There are a couple of tidbits here and there, but overall, boy, was that one extremely bare bones, and I was most excited for that. I mean, it's a witch in this world, and it's clearly implied that witches have their fingers in every pie. I imagined there would be a ton of things to do and explore, find those events which connect everything together, but instead it's just a bunch of tiny notes. I even found some special engraving during the second character's story, so I wanted to see what that was all about. But Mitch looks at it, there's a short comment, and yeah, that's it. I even went through every ruin again, trying to find more of his engravings, but it doesn't seem like there are any. It's just a real letdown. One small tidbit which I also disliked, the opening cutscene. It's voice acted and the speech is unpleasantly high-pitched. There's some sort of effect on it which amplifies the weirdness. Honestly, the first time it was loading, I just looked away, I was doing something else, I don't know, I was eating or drinking something, and I looked back, and I didn't even realize it was human speech. I thought it was just like sim speech, like blah, 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 blah. It's like it was impossible to actually understand what she's saying the first time I was hearing it. It's just, I'm honestly not sure what they were going for. It did not work for me. But again, this is entirely minor and irrelevant. Just skipped that cutscene every time without any problems. I wish the cowboy guy did the narration instead, actually. But I suppose it's supposed to be a certain spoiler character, so no more on that. So, in the end, I do believe Weird West is pretty damn good, but the flaws sadly do add quite a bit of frustration. And as the time went on and it got progressively worse, it reminded me a little bit of Dread Delusion. Early on that game sucked me in and refused to let go. I wanted to find everything, I wanted to do everything and just never leave. As it went on, and especially after finishing the Clockwork Kingdom, I was almost bored of the whole thing. Once the ship shows up, the game basically ends. I can explore some more, but at this point, what does it even matter? There's nothing to do. This game feels the same way. Early on there's just too much, and I want it all. Once the second character comes, it's so different, because some people downright hunt you down, and it's all about building up all your inventory again. But as it goes on, I just was going through the motions. Still, the game was enjoyable, and I might go through it again sometime.